This program is brought to you in part through the support of the town of Branford.
Okay, welcome. We'll call the Board of Selectmen's meeting for June 1st, 2022 to order. Item 1, can I get a motion to consider and if appropriate, approve the Board of Selectmen minutes of May 18th, 2022? Can I get a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Move seconded. Any discussion, omissions, edits, corrections? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item 2, to consider and if appropriate, approve a request from Laura Bourbon, Director of Dan Cosgrove Animal Shelter, to waive the bid for the purchase of materials for a canine splash pad in the amount of $21,110. I know we have the letter as well as, I don't see Laura Bourbon here. We'll move on. We'll take that up at the end of the agenda if she arrives. Otherwise, I can speak to it as well. Item 3, to consider and if appropriate, approve a request from Brian Devlin, Superintendent Wastewater Treatment Plant, to waive the bid and approve amendment number 1 to the Materials Management Agreement between the Town of Branford and Synagro Northeast LLC for an additional 3-year term for the transportation and incineration of primary waste activated liquid sludge from the treatment plant, contingent upon favorable opinion from the Board of Finance, and I will just add final review from town attorney.
Good evening. The 3-year contract with Synagro is for the hauling of our sludge to the New Haven facility. They also haul it to Naugatuck, and they also do Crownwell. And the average across the board is like a 40%, 45% increase for their services. And one of the issues with the increase is they only have a few incinerators out there, and a big issue is PFAS. This is chemical they use for fire retardants and stuff. So they don't want to take the liability and build more of these facilities. So we only have Synagro, and we have a stone out of Naugatuck, and they're tied in together for the hauling of the sludge and incineration. So this was the increase of the 17.7% due to the cost of their issues with burning the sludge. And I mentioned a 5-year plan, but they said with the cost of fuel, it was better to go with a 3-year plan, because it would have been more money if I did the 5-year plan. So that's where I'm at with them. They've been with us since 2001, and they're very reliable. And if I went with a separate hauler, I run into the issue where if they haul it to the facilities that they run, they could turn them away. Then I'd have to send it to Rhode Island, and there would be cost added to that. So they pretty much, there's not many competitors, if one or two, in the game of sludge hauling. So this is what I came up with them.
So just to be clear, Synagro is essentially a full service. They provide the haul as well as the disposal. Yes. Where, if you were to go out, you may receive bidders for hauling the material. Right. However, they'd be relying on other facilities to dispose of, which they do not have control over. Yeah, we had issues a few years ago where a few facilities went down in Connecticut, and they sent it to Rhode Island, where if I had a separate hauler, they would turn them away, and they'd have to send it to Pennsylvania, and more fees with the travel costs. Sure. Very expensive. Yeah. Right. All right.
I'll move it.
Second.
Second, and further discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Brian.
Item 4, to consider and if appropriate, approve a request from G Cafe Bakery for the placement of 5 bistro tables and 10 chairs along the sidewalk on Main Street in front of the cafe. Just for a point of information or clarity, historically the Board of Selectmen has been the body that grants permission for the placement of tables and chairs on the town sidewalks. and it would always come before this over the last couple of years and for another year until, I believe, April 2023, under the building, coming off of the governor's executive orders. Well, I think now it might be a statute, or there's another year left, allowing essentially as of right the use of outdoor space for tables and chairs for the food and drink businesses. So they, as of right, can continue to operate. You know, there is a process in place where that is reviewed. However, prior to the extension of the 1 year, the town did notify a number of businesses that are utilizing town space that they may have to come seek formal approval by the board. G Cafe elected to come forward. I think as a matter of process, we'll grant them this approval, or I'm in favor of it, just with the understanding that at the expiration of the governor's executive order, the town will by the time implement a formal process where it'll go through a permitting process to continue to allow the use of outdoor space for dining. I think it's been something that has really helped out a number of businesses, as well as I think a lot of the people in the community enjoy the outdoor dining. So just wanted to let the board know and the public know for that. So is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Move second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Green use, to consider and if appropriate, approve a request from Trinity Episcopal Church for the use of the town green to hold the annual church fair on September 23rd and September 24th, 2022. This is with the James Blackstone Memorial Library book sale.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Move seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item 6, to consider and if appropriate, approve a proclamation designating June 2nd, 2022 as Gun Violence Awareness Day. Whereas in Connecticut during 2021, there were 238 gun-related deaths, the highest toll in more than a decade, and in 2020, gun-related injuries were the leading cause of death among children and teens in the United States. And whereas guns are the second leading method of suicide in Connecticut, and gun-related suicides account for half of all Connecticut gun deaths, and whereas some 1 million students ages 12 to 18 report having access to a loaded gun without adult permission, and nearly 5 million children live in homes with unlocked loaded gun. And whereas more than 80% of child gun-related suicides use a gun belonging to a family member, and 2/3 of school shooters obtain the gun they use from their home or a home of a relative. And whereas, beyond the loss of life and the pain and suffering of survivors, there are countless thousands of family members and friends whose lives are forever scarred. And whereas, on December 14, 2012, in our home state, 20 children and 6 adults at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut, were fatally shot in the deadliest school shooting in U.S. history. And whereas, on May 14, 2022, 10 people were fatally shot and 3 were injured while grocery shopping in a neighborhood store near Buffalo, New York. And whereas, on May 24, 2022, 19 children and 2 adults at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, were fatally shot in the second deadliest school shooting in U.S. history. And whereas this June 2nd marks the 25th birthday of Hadiya Pendleton, a teen who tragically became a victim of gun violence. Hadiya's friends chose to wear orange on her birthday because orange was Hadiya's favorite color, and because hunters wear the color orange to announce themselves to others hunters for safety. Whereas, in participating in Wear Orange activities, we stand in solidarity with the communities of Newtown, Uvalde, and dozens of other cities and towns across the nation that have experienced the tragedy of senseless mass shootings. Now, therefore, we, the Branford Board of Selectmen, do hereby declare June 2nd, 2022, Gun Violence Awareness Day in Branford, encourage the residents to wear orange to call attention to the crisis of gun violence, signal our commitment to reducing gun violence in all its forms, and implore gun owners in our community to be responsible owners and properly secure any firearms in their home to prevent another senseless tragedy. Motion to put that forward, a motion?
I'll move it.
Second.
Move, second. All in favor, say
Aye.
Correspondence, no correspondence. I did receive correspondence from Representative Everson requesting that proclamation, and the board unanimously supported it. So, thank you. Any other business? Going once.
We're going to go back to the
Going-
splash pad?
Oh, yeah. Well, let's go to other business.
Laura's on her way.
Oh, she's on
She'll
her
be
way.
here about 10 minutes.
All right. Oh.
Welcome to the monthly report. Just following up on,
Just please identify yourself.
I'm Daniel Howie, resident of 122 Red Hill Road in Branford, citizen of Branford all my life. I have a request for you on the progress on the quarry and the survey. You said that had been completed. You were waiting to get that back from
Yeah.
the engineer who was on vacation.
Yeah.
So can you tell me where that stands now?
Certainly. So I had contacted Doug Anderson after the meeting, once again, to just check on the survey, which he had forwarded, because there was an email that said he was also waiting for some additional information. So I just said, does any of that have to do with the boundaries? And he said, no, the boundaries aren't in question, which is a concern. I said, is there a concern that, you know, I mentioned that your concern of encroachment to outside of the boundary lines. But what he needs further information, and this is, again, for clarification, which I wasn't clear on the last meeting because I was thinking it was our town engineer, but it's the firm that he's working for to provide some additional information for the contours. So keep in mind, the survey is not just limited to the boundaries, it's also elevations that are required to determine how much material has been removed in the locations. So that requires them to do a flyover. So my understanding in my discussions with Mr. Anderson, who is getting having the survey done, is that there was some question in that information in terms of what was gathered from the flyover and having that incorporated onto the map.
And when do you expect that to be completed?
I thought I would have had it by now. I mean, he made it sound as, I said, listen, you know, we need to have this information. It sounded like it was just a matter of the engineer who's working on it. I believe it's Criscolo engineer. I think they're the ones who are handling the whole entire survey, the mapping, and it's a matter of them getting the documentation reconciled.
Is this normal procedure where the party who is the leasee is the ones that determine the boundaries?
Well, the leasee is not determining the boundaries. It's a licensed professional surveyor whose license is on the line and who has it. And yes, it is their obligation.
Why isn't it?
Excuse me.
Okay,
It
I'm
is,
sorry.
yeah, it is their obligation to provide that information. We're not going to go through, it wasn't part of the town's responsibility or to carry that expense of documenting the survey.
But it sounds like to me this is a case of cat guard my canary.
I don't believe so. I think the engineering firm's highly reputable. I think to put their reputation in question, I don't see any reason to have concern. If you think that there's concern, I don't think a firm with this history here in the town of Branford, as well as involvement in the town and the amount of work that they do and reputation they've established over many years, would jeopardize that I think as you're perceiving it, as to suit the interest of a client.
That's not what I'm implying, though. I'm implying that maybe the terms of what that survey are to incorporate is not in alignment with what the town needs.
No, it is.
And that might be in alignment with what the quarry owners want, the quarry operators want, but not necessarily in alignment with what the town wants.
No, it's in alignment with what we want. We want the boundary, we want it properly surveyed, a proper A2 survey, clearly depicting the boundary lines mapped out, which had not been done prior. So we want that, and we also want the current contours or elevations that exist today, so we can see in terms of how much material is being moved, and establish from today a baseline of what's there. So that is in line with what the town requested, and that is what we want. That's what we want.
And what does this lease? Does this lease depend upon the amount of material removed?
There's
some type of a payment schedule on that, right?
Right.
And if we don't know what's been removed already so far, then how do we justify the amount of money or how they justify the amount of money they're paying us for this lease?
So
if they didn't know in advance you don't know the elevation, right? So how do you do that?
So right now they give us their other scale tickets and what comes out, and that's what in terms of doing a check of where we are in terms of elevations and contours. That's what is being performed now. I believe it may have been done flyover a number of years ago, but that, again, what we're trying to capture, what we wanted for the purpose of the issues in terms of encroachment, is the boundary line needed to be properly surveyed. So now it's a matter of, my understanding from what is being explained, is kind of bringing those two, that data together in terms of the flyover, elevations, what is being used in terms of for and tying that into what was done for the survey on the ground, which the A2 survey and those elevations. So I did have a conversation with them, probably it was after our last meeting, but maybe a couple days after that meeting.
Okay.
So, and I have not heard anything since then. So, and with the holiday, just.
Okay, so you figure this is forthcoming by the end of this month, say?
Dan, when I had the conversation with them, it made it sound as if it was just a matter of the engineer, I don't know if reconciling is the right, but taking the data and having it so that it does tie the two pieces of the information, because one was gathered through a flyover means, and one was used by, what you traditionally see with a surveyor, bringing the elevations in, building control, coming onto the site, and establishing that one.
So is this a 2-week process, a 2-month process?
I'm not a surveyor, but I would expect, and I don't think it's a matter of doing the work, I think it's a matter of, in terms of out in the field, I think it's a more matter of when the office puts the time into getting that information turned around. So when I talked to them, I expected it to be forthcoming within, I didn't expect it to be drawn out for months. I thought, okay, a couple weeks we'll hear. But here we are, a week and a half. I do not have it.
James,
Yeah.
maybe when you get a chance, reach out to Anderson and maybe ask him he should be the one to do it. Ask his engineer
Yeah.
what his timeline is.
I haven't
That might
been
short it
talking
down.
to, yeah.
I would expect him to do it, but maybe he can get the date from the guy for us,
Yeah.
and then we can
Yeah.
come up with a date.
Okay. Second thing, on the blight enforcement. Now, last meeting, we talked about that briefly, and you mentioned that there is no funding for that. So will there be a Blight Enforcement officer starting July 1?
This board will appoint one, so it may actually be appointed by then, our June meeting or our July meeting.
This is not going to be this is not then something that's a job that is being,
I believe
put
that it
through HR?
requires the Board of Selectmen to appoint an officer, but I'll confirm.
and so there,
Right? Yeah,
That's correct.
Yes.
sir, yes.
so the Board of Selectmen will appoint the
okay.
officer.
And the funds for that are coming from where?
The funds will come from depending on which department, will set up an account for that position, or if it's under existing department that has a part-time, it'll be a part-time account,
Well,
which is the account.
I didn't see anything in our latest budget for an enforcement officer unless I missed it someplace.
No, you didn't.
So, this is then going to be some money that is going to be given through contingency? I mean, where's the money coming from?
Yeah, I'm going to answer.
Okay.
So it'll either be, you didn't see a specific line item for Blight Enforcement Officer, because that was still being evaluated and discussed. Depending on the department it goes, that has a part-time account, which we do feel it'll come up from that account. If we need to transfer dollars into that to ensure through the remainder of the fiscal year, or for next fiscal year, there's enough funds, we will do that, and that transfer will occur out of contingency. However, there are a couple departments that do have part-time accounts that are currently funded, and we are evaluating those positions and the dollars that are in those accounts. So I expect there still need to be a transfer to cover it, but it's not something that would delay. It's not necessary in order to delay the appointment at this time.
So this could have been done then in January.
No,
Why not?
because first of all, as I said the last meeting and others, we didn't have it could have, but we would have still had to go on and contingency and do it, right.
Yeah, but you may have to do that as well.
Yeah.
So it could have been done in January. So we've had 6 months of kind of in limbo here, where, buildings are falling apart and people are.
I think
You want to see the pictures?
I'm aware of some pictures. You also have to understand that there's the town, in many cases, and I can point to some examples throughout town where we've actually worked with the individuals to address the concerns that have come forward. So, in terms of there's not so as far as 6 months in terms of buildings falling down because a part-time position was not appointed, I don't think I think that statement's a little bit misleading, but.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Tracy Everson, RTM, Minority Leader. I just wanted to thank the Board of Selectmen for passing the Gun Violence Awareness Proclamation, and I hope that the town will participate in this on a yearly basis going forward, and that I encourage residents of Branford to wear orange tomorrow in recognition of Gun Violence Awareness Day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Sure.
Good afternoon, Board of Selectmen. I'm Frank Toohill, RTM First District. I'd just like to thank the board for passing the okay right to the cafe for the outdoor tables right on the green right on Montauk Street. That whole area, the whole district. I mean, it's great to have the outdoor.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. All right. Any other business? All right, here now we'll move back to item 2, to consider and for appropriate approval request from Laura Bourbon, Director, Dan Cosgrove Animal Shelter, to waive the bid for the purchase of materials for the canine splash pad in the amount of $21,110. Laura?
I apologize. I thought the meeting was at 6 o'clock. So for a long time at the animal shelter, we've had basically like kiddie pools strewn about on the yards for the dogs. And it was a long time hope and want for the dogs to have something more secure and sanitary for them to have. We do doggy play groups. So it's healthier for dogs to play in groups. It gets energy levels out. It's stress reduction. And as you can imagine, dogs going from home to being stuck in a kennel, sometimes 23 hours a day is extremely stressful. So there's been studies done to show what helps alleviate that stress, and some of it is doggy play groups. So we're big advocates of that. So the doggy pools that we would have strewn about would have to be sanitized every different time you have different doggies coming into play, because you don't want to have bacteria interacting with each other. And there was also issues at times where dogs would fight over the pool because it's an item that they could pick up and drag across the yard, and we wanted to eliminate that as well. So this doggy splash pad will be a stress reducer for the dogs. It will be easy to sanitize, and it'll be a safety issue for us, because we no longer will have to worry about them picking it up and dragging it across the yard and trying to protect it. So we also had a donor who donated towards having this doggy splash pad at our new building as well.
Okay, thank you.
And this will be a permanent pad?
It is.
Okay, and
Yep.
where would it be located?
It's going to be located on the side of the building. When people drive down the driveway,
Yeah.
they'll see a large piece of it kind of out through the fencing area.
Okay.
They'll be able to see the dogs.
Thank you.
Laura, maybe you can explain so everyone else understands. This isn't new. This is in your budget for the construction. You're just trying to save some money by buying it this way and then having it installed, but you already have this money in that budget.
Yes, we do. And this whole thing's been a learning process for me. So as I learned, if you buy it direct from them instead of having the construction manager go and purchase it, you actually save 15% markup by doing that. So, and this organization we're buying from is actually the ones who invented the doggy splash pad. So they've kind of worked out all the kinks and learned what parts are appropriate, what materials last, et cetera.
Thank you.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Move second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. Item 9, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Branford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BranfordTV.org.